By the way, again, there's always more we can add. The Dgalim. Why were the Dgalim done the way that they were done in the desert? So the Jews prophetically they saw they were during the revelation of divine revelation. They were witnessing the angels, and the angels had their chariots organized in the way of the Dgalim. The Jews just copied that. They said, "Oh, we're going to do exactly what the angels are. We're going to organize our camp in the same way, on the four sides of the chariot." 3 different sections for each of the 4 sides, one for each tribe. Mm-hmm. So it really was a mystical. It was a mystical, and they wanted to emulate in that way. Yeah.
And how did they see it?
Through prophecy.
On Har Sinai.
Mount Sinai was a crazy prophetic experience. I don't know. You see how long it takes to read the 10 Commandments in Shul. It took 15 minutes if you're going really, really slow. Mm-hmm. But you can see that it was a major experience. It wasn't just a major experience. It was the prophetic experience. So, again, I don't like to use the language so much because it's cheap. Mm-hmm. But imagine someone says, "I had a crazy psychedelic experience."
Yeah.
Right? And then they're like, I downloaded information for 10 years, which I've never done it, so I can't tell you what I know if I know what that means. It seems a little bit like interesting. Fine. I mean, I'll take it.
As someone who's had a few psychedelic experiences, I've never downloaded 10 years worth of information.
But you have deep, intense. You've discovered real deep parts.
I'll tell you this much.
Yeah.
The deep psychedelic experiences that I have had have been understandings far beyond intellectual. And game changing experiences.
More fundamental than what could be delivered through speech.
Yeah, to the point of like not to turn this into a talk about psychedelics, but just like we could, but like the good one, like that like 1 or 2 insanely powerful experiences were life-changing because there was a lesson learned, as if I had learned it in both the most loving and most painful ways possible, in what would be considered to be a lab setting. So imagine
a pure transfer of information.
Yeah. An internalization, like very powerful.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Right. That's the after, right. So that's what again, not to use the language cheaply.
Yeah.
But that's what the giving of the Torah was. Mm-hmm. We know that the Jews already had the Torah beforehand. Mm-hmm. It says that the tribe of Levi was studying. We know that there were teachings that they had. It says in the Torah that Abraham was teaching to his children the way of God. The Midrash tells us there was the Yeshivat Shem Ve'ever, which is this. They were the child and great grandchild of Noah had a yeshiva where they were studying the wisdom of God. It wasn't necessarily, or probably wasn't, formulated in the language that we have here, because this is, otherwise you're saying it's talking the future, right? You can't say, and then Moses said, "I don't want to be your messenger," because then Moses reads that and he's like, "Oh, it's good to know it's going to happen next week." That makes no sense.
Yeah.
The ideas, the concepts, the themes, things that when we say we're learning Torah today, not necessarily we're always reading the Torah text. We're studying the ideas, the concepts, the it's more than just the values. It's the way of thinking. It's the way of understanding our place in the world and the morality of things. That power, that information already existed in the world. What happened in Mount Sinai was a transcendent experience. It was both a making of of a cementing of truth. The Jewish people see God, and they speak to God. They don't see God in the physical sense because God doesn't have form, but they see God in the way that someone having, seeing as in understanding, seeing as in really really believing. They experience God. And they see Moses talk to God. So it's a dual. It's 2 birds.
Yeah, and they're saying the best to ever do it.
Yes, and they're experiencing that.
Yeah.
So they know that it's true. They know that Moses is telling them the Torah of truth. They know that the experience is real and it's going to happen. And we have this kind of transferred over time. We have our grandparents heard it from their grandparents, and we go back 60 links or 70 links on the chain, and it's the people who are actually there.
Yeah.
It's not that far.
3,500 years ago?
3,340 3,336 years.
Tahar
I'll tell you,
Sinai.
2448 is the year that we got the Torah, and we're now in 5786. So run the
Okay.
numbers. Whatever that is.
Whatever that is.
3,000 and change. What's interesting is, I'll give you an example to understand. This is an example of a concept in Torah
Mm-hmm.
that this is a very well processed concept in Jewish thought, but it's a way of understanding how do we think of things in Torah, and how sometimes you have an idea which is very basic and very obvious, but it helps to have an understanding of different layers of it and ways of different pieces of understanding that thing. So you have this idea of Ahavat Israel, or loving your fellow Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's one way to understand this, is that, it's good for a nation that everyone should like each other. Right? It's good for a family if everyone loves each other. It's functional. It's good, right? It makes sure that you're not gonna, they say that Israel worked very well as a socialist country in the beginning,
Yeah.
and as time progressed, it got more and more difficult because the socialism communism works great in a family, right? It's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Socialism works okay in extended family.
Yeah.
At some point, if you don't see the other people around the table as being your family, you can't fargin,
Yeah.
which is a Yiddish word, which just means I can't let you be. I can't let you enjoy. I can't let you.
Mm-hmm.
Lefargen is a Hebrew word, which
Yeah.
is just stolen from the Yiddish word.
Really?
What does lefargen mean?
Firgun is to here, have.
To fargin. Lefargen.
Is it really?
Absolutely.
I did not know
It's a
that.
Yiddish word.
That's very funny.
It's great.
Okay, so I also I feel like Ahavat Israel. If this is what we're kicking off the parsha with, parsha name
בהעלותך.
בהעלותך. So we're kicking off בהעלותך with Ahavat Israel, loving of the nation of Israel, which is one of the most important mitzvahs out there. That being said, are we talking about emotionally lovey-doveyness, and or are we talking about a value? Because when I hear love, I've been called stone cold for seeing it this way. I do think that people confuse love for an emotion, which it is not. I do
Okay.
not think that love is an emotion. I think that happiness is an emotion, sadness is an emotion, anger is an emotion, love is a value. And it can be expressed through emotions, and it can be expressed through actions, and it can be expressed in a lot of different ways. But that's why you can love someone and be angry with them. Which sounds like it's contradicting, but it's not really, because neither one of those is not an emotion while one of those is, and therefore they're not contradictory. That being said, you can't be thrilled with someone and pissed off at them at the same time.
Right.
That's impossible.
Right.
To further that point is when you hear someone saying that they're feeling triggered. It's not an emotion. They're triggered to feel an emotion, but they're not feeling triggered.
Right.
They're triggered something in the room. Their ex walked in, and that triggered that helplessness or that loneliness that they're feeling. That's the feeling they're having. Loneliness. That's an actual feeling. And that
Or
also
jealousy.
can be, or jealousy, and that can also be, brought down and simmered into sadness or happiness or anger or anything that's closer to a real emotion. So I don't think love is an emotion, and therefore I want to push the question is: are we talking about Ahavat Israel? Is what happens if you're pissed off with your cousin who's in Shevet Zvulun, and you're does that mean that you're not fulfilling the mitzvah of Ahavat Israel?
So this is not my phrase. It's a very good question. There's some people who say, there's a rabbi who says this, Manis Friedman says this, he says, love and like are different things. You can love someone and not like them.
Very much so.
Which is
I think my
fascinating.
mother would agree with you about me in my teenage years.
Yeah, you can love somebody,
Yeah.
but you don't like them. You don't want to be in the same room as them. I
Yeah.
love you. Please go away.
Yeah.
Right?
I love you, but if I get another phone call from your teacher,
then you're going to feel my love in a very different way.
In a very different
Which, by the way, is interesting because, when we talk about the different sefirot, the different emotional experiences, and we'll have to one day go through, like, God has it, we have it, what does it relate? We'll leave that for a later time. But our emotions are complex. As, I think a recurring theme we're going to be touching upon in this conversation over and over is that Judaism and Jewish philosophy and Jewish understanding is very complex. There's layers and layers of understanding here, right? So you have, for example, love. You have love that is motivated by love, or a subset of love, and you have gvura as a subset of love. The only reason why your mother is upset about the phone call from your teacher is because she loves you. How do you see that? Because if she gets a phone call about the shpagegi who sits next to you in class, she'll say, I appreciate you sharing this with me. Why'd you call me?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Which, by the way, also, like, furthers that point that we were talking about earlier.
So?
Yeah, which also furthers that point, which is that, like, if love were an emotion, then the opposite of it would be hate. But really the opposite of love is indifference.
So it's interesting. I agree with you. And I think that the simplest way to frame love and to frame hate, or to frame chesed and gvura, as we would call it in the Kabbalistic terminology, love is a verb. It is and hate also is the opposing verb. Indifference is no action. So depending on if you're talking about different levels of movement or no movement at all, right? Love is the feeling of I want to be close to you, and I want to bring you close to me, or I want to get close to you, or I want to stay close to you. Gvura, or hatred, or anger.
Is gvura associated with hatred?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It isn't always the same. In other words, hatred is an extreme form of gvura.
Yeah.
It's rooted in it.
Because gvura, when you say that word in Hebrew, what I associate with it is heroism.
It has to do with being able
aggressive.
To push, to be aggressive, to push away. So heroism is you're pushing away it's almost reverse. You're pushing away your fear. Really, gvura, heroism would probably be closer to more like netzach and hod.
Okay.
It moves further down on the ladder. It's not as strong of an emotion. It's much more a manifestation of an emotion. It's interesting. But love is bringing close, and fear is pushing away. So yeah, but Ahavat Yisrael is a value. To your point, you're right. Ahavat Yisrael is a value that you should feel a love, and then there's parameters on what that love means. So it's not that you have. It isn't Ahavat Yisrael isn't just generic love. It's you have to frame that. You have to understand what it is and why it is and how it is, and then the question becomes, how are you supposed to create an emotion? Are emotions just naturally triggered or naturally exploded from something, right? And this is what Jewish and Hasidic philosophy deal with in a lot of their interesting conversations, is the conversation of how do you get an emotion? How do you create an emotion?
Thought.
Or how do you get rid of an emotion?
Both.
If it's an emotion that you want or you don't want, what do you do?
I don't know what the Kabbalistic approach to that is, but I think that emotions are triggered by thoughts, and they're also solved by thoughts if you want them to be solved. So my ex walking into the room, it's not that's making me feel sad or betrayed or whatever I'm feeling. It's my ex walked into the room. I remembered our good times together. I remember that those times are no more. I remember that she is having those times now with someone else.
Right.
Reminds me of the fact that I'm not having those times with someone else. And those are all thoughts.
Right.
And each thought is bringing me further into an emotion. And if I were to want to remove myself from that emotion, there are physical actions that I can do. But those physical actions, again, would not be the salvation. They would create the space. Like me stepping outside of the room would create this mental space for me to start accessing more positive thoughts to get me out of that negative situation. Is the way I see it.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. We understand that emotions come from thinking. Healthy people, thoughts lead to emotions. In the animalistic side, or a person who is channeling their animalistic energies. Emotions lead to thoughts. Then you justify everything that you're feeling. Meaning it's not that they're not decoupled from each other, which is important to remember. They're not like, it's not like you have emotions and just these crazy impulses with no thoughts. Your thoughts are in service of. They're adding information, they're adding backup, data to prove that you're correct. It has to still process through your mind, which is why if you're sleeping, then you're not going to have the emotion suddenly emerge out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because you have to be awake to process the information to be able to have the emotion. Right? So it does pass through your brain. But the cool thing is that you control your thoughts.
Yeah.
Fully. So because you control your thoughts, you can, and you have to be on top of it. You can't, it's not that you can control your thoughts. You can think about controlling your thoughts. You have to have a thought process to put in place, and then you can create whatever thought you want.
I think I was talking about this with you, that the greatest example for Judaism talking about meditation and controlling your thoughts is in Aseret Hadibrot, where it says you will not covet.
Yeah.
Which is basically you won't fancy someone else's wife, which means that you can control your thoughts. It's not like, I can't. No. 3,300
and you will.
And you will.
And you will.
And it's not only that. It's these 10 laws that are put up at it. This is up there with don't murder and don't steal.
Right.
Is control your thoughts about the way you're going to think about your friend's wife.
Right.
Powerful stuff.
No, it's a fundamental building block, and the truth is, for many years actually, I had always struggled. Not struggle is a bad word. I always wondered. It kind of felt like the top 10 list, the 10 Commandments, like the top 8 or 7 were like really solid, and then like they just ran out of good stuff. So they're like, okay, what should we throw on there? Let's put coveting on it. Sounds great, right? It's like whatever, we just ran. But it's not true, obviously. And also, there's like a billion other mitzvahs that could have easily landed there.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
I was surprised that Lashon Hara is not on there.
Oh, I have a theory about that. It's separate.
Because we spoke about Lashon Hara the other week, but...
Yeah. I have a whole theory about that.
Okay.
But the coveting thing is very, very powerful. Because the coveting thing is to exactly your point. It's about controlling your thoughts. Which, if you're looking at it from the holistic perspective of how how a person's supposed to live in the world, that is like a major key to living an elevated spiritual life. The fact that you can control your thoughts means that you can decide how you're going to feel. It means you can decide how you react to certain situations. There's a very famous story, which is a very cool story. Is a chassid. So we're jumping forward in time periods to the time of the Alter Rebbe, who lived in. He passed away in 1812.
This is the
first Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi. He's the one he didn't start Hasidic thought. I'm actually going to share a thought from him in a moment. He didn't share Hasidus. He didn't start that. He started the Chabad movement and philosophy within Hasidism. He developed Hasidic themes and Hasidic ideas in a very specific way.
So he passes away in 1812. He starts Chabad.
He starts
Chabad in what year?
1773.
1773.
Correct. He was
the
born...
year that... No, 3 years before.
2.5 years before.
And how...
I'm of the opinion, if you ask me, that the reason why America exists is because of the spiritual energy that Chabad releases into the world, allows America to come to be, and we'll have to do a America 250 podcast just on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just got a lot of information I didn't expect to get. How far down the line is he from Baal Shem Tov?
He's a student.
He's a direct student of Baal Shem Tov.
Second student.
Student.
He met the Baal Shem Tov as a child, but the Baal Shem Tov did not want him to know who he was, because he says, he's my student. He can't learn from me directly, in that way.
Okay.
Yes, he has to be introduced into.
Is that a concept?
Yeah. His soul belongs to him, kind of thing.
Okay.
He'll teach him, he'll educate him, he'll grow him. So he met him, he did his upsharnish, he did his haircut, but he didn't tell him who he was.
He didn't tell him that he was the Baal Shem Tov.
He didn't say, he said, who is he? The Alter Rebbe was a young 3-year-old child. He says, who is that? He says, it's a Zayda. Zayda is a term, it's like a grandfather, but it's also like
an elder.
An elder. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So the Alter Rebbe there was a massive war. People know about this. Napoleon was taking over the entire Europe, and he comes for Russia after he does most of Europe. there was an internal conversation in the Hasidic world, in the religious world, the Hasidic world, as to whether Napoleon was good or bad for the Jews.
On paper, good.
What?
On paper, good.
So the Alter Rebbe was of the opinion bad.
No, but like on paper, meaning for the freedom of religion and...
Well, that was the question. The question, what was he promising? What was he wanting to do? He wanted to do a Sanhedrin. He wanted to make Paris the Jerusalem of Europe. It was interesting. And he was promising emancipation. He was promising equality.
Mm-hmm.
And the Alter Rebbe was worried that it would cause the Jews to lose their spiritual center.
Mm-hmm.
And they would basically lose all... Like they would just lose it. They would lose everything. They were in Russia. They had a lot harder physical experience. They were much more poor, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But they had the yeshivas, they had the shtetlach and the schools, and at the end of the day, that would hold them
together
and hold them tight. And I mean, historically, if you look at the years later, the Alter Rebbe's grandson was fighting with the Enlightenment within Judaism at that point already.
What does that mean?
It's the Haskalah movement.
Mm-hmm.
He was working against them because there was this big feeling that if the minute that you crack open their shtetls, thousands and thousands of Jews are just going to abandon their Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, it was starting with the community.
Well, crack the community, and then exactly. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, you look as the generations, by the I'm trying to think of the years. By the mid 1800s, that is exactly what happened. Thousands and thousands of Jews were abandoning their Judaism, not because they, it's probably arguably why they abandoned it.
But like a great example for that, for people listening, is in the 1920s, Jews in Germany calling themselves Germans descendant of Moses, as opposed to Jewish Germans.
Excellent. Yeah.
A very secular, and by the way, controversial opinion, maybe slightly even political, is the extreme secular community in Israel renouncing their Judaism and calling themselves Israelis, or not even that. Today.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to see that the prediction of the Alter Rebbe came true.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, I would say that where we stand today as a vantage point based on historically, we're sitting in a place where we've gone over the hill almost. We've come to a point where we can be fully exposed, or probably an argument of how fully exposed, but we can be fully exposed to the secular world. I mean, I live in a city in Austin, Texas, fully exposed to the secular world. My kids are 90% exposed to the secular world.
Mm-hmm.
I do shelter them from a bunch of stuff. I think that if you don't shelter your kids from the entire enormity of the secular world, as a secular person, you're probably doing a disservice to your children.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? If you're a parent and you have a 7-year-old and you give your kid social media on an iPhone, you're destroying your child.
100%.
Simple, right? So then the question just is, at what point do you say this is the point beyond which it's safe for them to have it? Every person's going to have their own age. Is it 10? Is it 12? Is it 15? Is it 18? Is it 20? Mm-hmm. And you can have a conversation with your teenagers as well. You can say, look, I clearly struggle with, thank God I have put systems in place, but struggle with social media addiction, struggle with reading negative headlines and feeling depressed about the world, right? It doesn't all have to be like this addiction stuff. It could just be like seeing what your friends are posting and therefore feeling stupid about your own life. Like all these things come from this incredible tool called the smartphone and the internet, which allows you to call an Uber in 3 seconds to your house. Also allows you to be so depressed you don't want to leave your house.
Exactly.
So, whatever. The point is that the Alter Rebbe was decided that he is going to put his weight behind Napoleon. Behind the Tsar and fight for Russia. There's parts of the story that are spiritual. And
this is after the Tsar is hunting Jews, practically.
This is after the Tsar arrested the Alter Rebbe twice, correct?
Wow.
For treason. But he decided, again, it wasn't about like, Tsar's my buddy, I like him. It was about what is the right thing for the Jewish people? What were the best things strategically for them? And if you think about it from the perspective of, had the Alter Rebbe allowed the reform, the enlightenment to sweep through the shtetls at that time. Look at the amount of time it took from when it began 3 generations later. Imagine they would have had 3 more generations to work. Who knows where Judaism would be today?
Yeah.
Right. Well, what would have happened? A big part of what reversed that trend. Part of it was, well, I don't know if it's reversed the trend. It's complicated because the Holocaust wiped out mostly religious people. It's very, very complicated. But anyways, the Alter Rebbe throws his weight behind the Tsar, and when he does that is he instructs his Chassidim, his followers. He tells them, I want you, if you have the opportunity to help the Tsars, the Russians, you should. And it's a certain Chassidim actually went ahead and became spies.
For the Tsar.
So there's a Chassid of Moshe Meisels, who was a businessman and a very, very scholarly, and he knew a bunch of languages. He ends up getting placing himself in the French headquarters around the Vilna area. And he's translating for them, sitting in the corner translating.
Vilna being in?
Lithuania. And he is translating stuff for them, and he is documents and stuff, and picking up little bits and pieces of information. And there's a whole wild story where basically the French had figured out a way to blow up the Russian arms depot by using they replaced the window panes on the Russian arms depot. Basically, they got 2 of their people to go and get into a fight outside the window of the depot, and they break the glass. And because of that, they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry. We'll replace it for you. We'll go find the guy." And the guy comes and he replaces the window, and it was a magnifying glass. And the idea essentially was that when it's in the middle of the day, it will cause. It was shaped in such a way that it should
sunbeams.
The sunbeams should light off blow up basically the gunpowder that was stored in that room. Yes. It worked successfully. That was one thing.
Like, and then death beams.
Essentially, but it's like it's wild concept. You're like, oh, they were fighting. Like, they had strategy. There was a complicated things. It was great.
Oh yeah,
so fun.
Well, when I was in officer training in the IDF, they would give us these battles to decipher. Like they'd give us historical battles, and some of them would be Yom Kippur War battles. Some of them would be, the Hashmonites against the Greeks in the valley of Elah, next to Latrun, what is today cool. Latrun, or where I learned about Elazar, which is right across where I grew up in Israel. It's like there was a lot of tactics going on. Like Judah the Maccabee was a known tactician. His excellence was reconnaissance. He practically, in a lot of ways, people think that he invented modern reconnaissance, and like it's very interesting.
Really,
yeah. Is very interesting stuff.
That is very interesting. That's crazy.
And the thing is, we still have all the topography today to study on. So you're standing where Judah the Maccabee and his scouts were standing while the Greeks were coming up from Ashkelon towards Jerusalem through Latrun, which is today the road that connects between like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. It's just very. It's
you can see what he could see.
You see exactly what he could see and how he
chose this vantage point,
and why he chose to do it at this hour so that the sun would be blinding people so that they couldn't see them.
That's great.
And which route that he went while they went up a different route so that he could burn their camp while they were on the way. Like crazy stuff.
Wow, that's cool. That's really cool. That's really, really cool.
So yeah, so these old wars, tactics, lots of tactics, very interesting stuff.
But what I like about this, to me, was spy novels have a lot of technical stuff as well, and this is very technical.
Very.
Where they have like a technical piece of the glass replacement, and it blows. So it's this crazy thing, and then basically he hears about it, or he's in the thing when it happens, and then he hears about another plan that they had for some other thing, and basically, it could be I'm mixing things up. It could be that was their plan. And that was what they were busted on, or that they did it one place and they busted on the second place. So basically, he figured out a whole plan, and he had the French soldiers were busted. They were arrested and they were executed, or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. But there was a few things that he caught, and he would pass the information on to the czars. It was like he would see it, and he'd go back and report back. And it came to a point, and the Russians were not dumb. They were doing it in such a way that it just seemed a little coincidental. Mm-hmm. But things were going a little bit too wrong for the French.
And they're like, we got a spy.
At some point, Napoleon himself comes into that headquarters. and he's raging. He's like, what's going on? Why is everything failing? He looks around the room and he sees this chassid in the corner. He says, he's like, looks at him straight in the eye and says, you're a spy. And he takes his hand and he places it on his chest.
To see if his heart was racing?
To see if his heart was racing. Nothing.
Nothing.
Completely fine.
Stone cold.
Stone cold. What? So he says later, he tells the story to his fellow chassidim, his friends. He says, on that day, the aleph bet of chassidus saved my life. The building blocks of chassidus. What is the building blocks of chassidus? This idea that you mentioned. Your mind controls your feelings. He says, I know, and he says, from this is what we do as a chassid. You're supposed to meditate and pray, and your mind is what creates your feelings. This is in that moment. What was I thinking? Not to be afraid. And so I can control my feelings to the physical point that I will control my heart itself.
So,
heart didn't race.
So I imagine that he even took it one step further than don't be afraid. It's what he wanted to feel and not what he wanted not to feel.
Correct.
So like whether that feeling was
be calm, stay,
Hashem,
right, trusting, right,
yeah,
or even just be calm.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's the power of, yes, I can control my thoughts, and my thought, I will not be afraid. I'm going to be X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I feel like one of the things that bothers me hearing this beautiful story is how many people have left behind their religious Judaism and call themselves culturally Jewish, or even not that, in order to go practice, the mystics of the East and Buddhism. And I don't mind. Like I've definitely done some Zen meditations, which I don't think is Avodah Zarah. I hope it's not.
I don't know enough about it.
But like I'm hearing this, and it's just like, where was this when I was 17 years old, looking for the meaning in all of this stuff that I was brought up in, and people were like,
we don't have it.
Yeah, we don't have it. So it's like, it's so beautiful hearing that. It's like, I if you had changed one little detail of this story, and instead of this being a chassid,
right,
and it would have been a Buddhist monk,
right,
it would have made just as much sense to me.
Right.
And it's a shame.
Right. Yeah, I think also that's part of where I think today, when we say today, 2026, the beauty of the spiritualist language preparing people to hear Kabbalistic ideas, and people like us willing to take Kabbalistic ideas and to speak them in such a way that's a little more accessible, not in the middle of a long, complicated, the Tanya speaks about this idea of your mind controlling your heart. It's a fundamental thing. Chassids have been talking about this for generations. It happens to be in the Tanya in the middle of chapter, it's mentioned chapter 13, it's mentioned chapter 14, 15. Like
it's on the
cover page.
Yeah. Because
it can't be. Because you're supposed to have a lot of stuff to understand. In conversation, it's the first thing you can talk about.
Yeah.
Right? It's the aleph bet of Chassidus. He didn't say, the Gimel Dalet of Chassidus saved my life.
Yeah.
Right? Or the
it's
the first thing that we talk about.
Rule.
But when you're talking about it in a book form, you build up. There's a direction that things go. So it's interesting. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think this goes to the general theme, which is Judaism is way more sophisticated and way more interesting than most people who haven't had a chance. Not that they some people ignore it because they just they think it's shallow. They think it's 8th grade.
Yeah,
because they only learn till 8th grade. So they're right.
Yeah. Well,
the Yiddish guy that you learn till 8th grade is only 8th grade level.
Well,
obviously.
in all fairness, even people like, I think, and I hope, like, if he does hear this, it meets him in the right way. But like, looking at the way my dad practices Judaism, and it's a very practical way, and there is like parts of it that he talks about the soul and things like that. But I think that Jewish meditation is might be a bit of a foreign term for him, where for him, like the length to which a meditation is saying a bracha over food, meaning that, like, okay, you're acknowledging that food is not a given, which is in itself a meditation. But I don't think that he would, if I were to ask him today what Yiddishkeit is or what aleph bet of Judaism is, I don't think that controlling your thoughts would be in the top 20.
Right. Yeah, and also, if to understand, Yiddishkeit is so sophisticated or so complex that you're able to have ask 20 people and they'll give you very clean, sophisticated, maybe more regimented or maybe more boring versions of Judaism, boring from our perspective, but someone could be answering you something about nationalism and nation building,
Definitely.
coalescing of families and moral ethical code, right? And you look at that, you're like, oh, that's
interesting too. Yeah,
super interesting and very nice. But maybe it doesn't it's not inspiring in the way that a spiritual conversation is inspiring. Look, we think Chassidus was revealed in this generation because it's the thing that we need most. But that's my and the Rebbe's opinions. So all the only you bring out the guns.
So how did we get here?
How did we get here? So we're talking about love and feeling and emotions to feel love.
Okay.
And so I wanted to explore for a minute the idea of different layers in Ahavat Yisrael, or understanding of Ahavat Yisrael. So there's 3 teachings: a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, a teaching from the Maggid of Mizrach, and a teaching of the Alter Rebbe, which means teacher, or teacher, student.
So 3 generations.
3 generations. So the first is the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov taught that there's a set of we put on tefillin every day. There's a fundamental principle that every mitzvah that we do, God does as well. Okay. He doesn't just tell us to do; He also does it Himself. Which means that Hashem rests on the 7th day like we do. We copy Him, and then now He copies us. We celebrate Passover; God celebrates Passover. We put on tefillin. Hashem puts on tefillin. Okay. What does it say in Hashem's tefillin? We have tefillin. We have parshiot.
Interesting. What does it say?
Right.
And those parshiot are Shema. Basically.
So there's 4 parshiot.
So there's
Shema. V'hayayim Shemoah, which is the second paragraph of Shema.
Yeah.
Vaya ki v'yacha, when God took us out of Egypt, and we're going to, reminds us that He has power. And 2, Vaya ki v'yacha, and the Kaddish li kol b'chor, which is.
And what's the last one?
Kaddish li kol b'chor, which is make for me all the. It's a piece that talks about why do we have to make all of our firstborn holy for God? Because God took us out of Egypt, killed their firstborn, saved our firstborn. So therefore, we respond in kind, which is the pidyon.
Which is the
pidyon, the same idea. Very good. What are the tefillot, or what are the phrases that go into Hashem's tefillin? So the Gemara actually gives us. It actually gives us 6 verses, and the Gemara is like, that's too many. It's only 4 compartments. I love the nitty grittiness of it. It's just be poetic. We're there's 6
Jewish.
verses. No.
So
the first one is Mi Ka'amchi Yisrael, Go Yachad Ba'aretz. Who is this nation?
Yeah.
One nation on the land, which is, it pairs nicely with Shema.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's one where Hashem says, I'm trying to remember the verse offhand. Hashem made you unique and special from all the other nations. It's Moshe talking to the Jewish people. It's in Dvarim. It's 2 verses. And later the Gemara says actually those 2 are basically the same theme. So they go into their own thing. It's not that the Jews are one, but Hashem made us unique. And the other 2 verses are also verses that speak about the uniqueness of the Jewish people and Hashem choosing us. So all 4 verses are speaking about that. And the idea essentially is, in our tefillin, we talk about the uniqueness of God and Hashem having power on earth. And in Hashem's tefillin, He points to us. He says uniqueness of the people, of my people, and
He's basically saying you guys are okay too.
They're special, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
You guys are pretty nice.
You're not, and you're one, and you're one, and you are oneness. And you're bringing oneness into earth. Very beautiful. So the Baal Shem Tov takes this Gemara and this idea, and he says, the hand tefillin and the head tefillin
have different parshas.
The hand, no, it's the same 4 parshas, but the hand tefillin is the simple people, and the head tefillin is the Torah scholars.
Say that again.
The hand tefillin is the simple people, and the head tefillin
is the Torah scholars.
Are the Torah scholars.
What does that mean?
So the theme of it is that while they both are on different levels, right? The hand tefillin is a mitzvah that you're able to wear on its own, while the head tefillin, you're not supposed to wear them without wearing the hand tefillin because it's a higher level of holiness. If you have a pair of hand tefillin, you can change that into a head tefillin. A head tefillin you cannot change back into a hand tefillin. So there's different layers of holiness in the two. However, the Baal Shem Tov's point was, these are simple people, and they don't study Torah, and they don't have great knowledge and everything, and they fall into the same category of love. God loves them. God cares about them. Who is like you, one nation? You think the one nation only applies to Torah scholars? No, it applies to everybody. Every single Jew falls under this category of Hashem puts them in his tefillin.
Okay.
And therefore, you should love every Jew. Even if they're a simple person, because you think, oh, I only love... He was specifically targeting this, I think, at the scholars and the people who are super involved. Because remember, we're talking about the shtetl when there was like a bunch of illiterate Jews who like they prayed, but maybe they said all the words correctly, and maybe not. And the stories of the Baal Shem Tov are hundreds of stories, talk about this beautiful concept that a simple person can be as close or even closer to God than a sophisticated, learned, educated Jew. Today, there's been a little bit of a flattening in that many, many more Jews are literate and learned than in those days. We also have less geniuses.
We also have the less geniuses, and I also think that there's a lot more secular Judaism.
That's possible. But those days, a lot of the people that today... I don't even know if that's true. A lot of the secular Jews today are not dumb. They're not dumb. They're not illiterate.
I don't think they're dumb. I think they're not practicing.
They're not practicing. But the simple Jews of those days were practicing. They were practicing to the best of their ability. They just didn't know a lot of stuff. I mean, the quintessential story is but the Baal Shem Tov taught, his whole thing was, he was teaching these Jews, you think that they're illiterate because they're obnoxious, because they don't care.
Yeah, they had no access to letters.
And in fact, maybe they have more of maybe they're closer to God in a certain sense. Not in a certain sense. The ones who did the closest to God are actually much closer to God because they actually care more. The best example is I'm not going to tell the whole story now, but there was a simple Jew who could barely read Hebrew, and he didn't know which way up was up in the siddur. And today's the siddurs have instructions before, instructions after. Have you ever seen an old siddur? It's just basically a wall of text. And he didn't know, what to do. So every morning he would wake up in the morning an extra 2 hours early before he started all of his farm work, and he would read the entire siddur cover to cover to make sure that he davened correctly. And the story is that the Baal Shem Tov, he begs the Baal Shem Tov when he meets him. The Baal Shem Tov was before he became a revealed master. He was, walking quietly around the communities. And he meets this guy, and the guy begs the Baal Shem Tov, please do me a favor and stick bookmarks throughout my entire siddur so I can know where we start and where we end and what's going on. The Baal Shem Tov sits with him for an hour or whatever it is and writes out a little. This page is where we start this. This line is where we start this. This is morning. This is afternoon. This is evening. This is Shabbat. This is a holiday. This is this. Sets them all up. He says, "Thank you. I've been waiting for a scholar to come by and help me out and I should not be a mishagas anymore." Baal Shem Tov leaves. 30 seconds later, a wind comes in through the door, blows the book open, and wipes out all the bookmarks. The guy's devastated. So he gathers up all the bookmarks, gathers up the siddur, and he runs down the mountain, the forest path, to see if he can catch up to the scholar. Would he be so benevolent and kind to sit for another? Do it again. Just put it all back where it belongs. He's chasing the Baal Shem Tov. He sees the Baal Shem Tov up ahead of him, and he's like, "Okay, good." He's going. There's a mountain stream down there. So he runs down, and he sees the Baal Shem Tov reaching the mountain stream. He says, "Good." They'll stop him. It'll be fine. Baal Shem Tov reaches the edge of the mountain stream, takes out a handkerchief, places it on the water, and rides the handkerchief across the stream. Baal Shem Tov was known for doing magical Kabbalah. Takes the handkerchief, folds it up, puts it in his pocket, keeps going. The Jew is chasing after him. He's desperate. What is he supposed to do? He takes out his handkerchief, puts it on the water. He says he did it. He takes it, puts it on the water, gets on top, rides across.
Also crosses.
Yeah, also crosses and
Okay.
chases the Baal Shem Tov. By this time, he caught up. He catches up. He says, Rabbi, please do me the favor. Put the bookmarks back in. So he takes the bookmarks. He looks at him. He says, how'd you get here? He says, what do you mean?
I love it.
He says, how'd you cross the stream? He says, I saw what you did. It was brilliant. Never thought of doing it before in my life. Take the handkerchief, put it on the
He
water,
was on
right
that
across.
spiritual level.
Bachan looks at him and says, I don't think you should. Don't change anything you're doing. I don't think you need any bookmarks.
I love it.
That's the that's the Baal Shem Tov's like direction of understanding that whatever you think the hierarchy is, you know what the hierarchy is.
Yeah.
There's hand tefillin and head tefillin. In the public eye, so to speak, the head tefillin of the scholars, the hand tefillin of the... Remember, both tefillin are beloved. Both tefillin speak God loves the Jewish people. He writes in the same thing. We make a bracha on the same tefillin. And you have to have both to fulfill the mitzvah fully. Obviously, if you only have one, you can do with one. But
well, you can only do the hand. You can't just do the hand.
No, you could just do the head. If, God forbid, someone doesn't have hand tefillin, it breaks, put on just the head. Make a bracha, put on just the head. Okay. Absolutely, yeah. But the Baal Shem Tov is the Baal... So that power...
Is it also... Am I getting this wrong that it used to be nahug to go to war with tefillin shel yad?
I think in general the Jews, the people used to wear tefillin all the time. And going to war, I think it probably made a difference what kind of war they were going to, and if it was distracting or not distracting. I'm not sure. There's a conversation about the power that people had in their arms because they put on tefillin in war. Like having put on tefillin before, it allowed them to have more power.
They're like old practices like that I'm like very interested in. I'm like wonder like the shofarot. I had a guy in the army with me when we would go on navigations, and these were really long navigations, and you'd be sent off middle of the night, no map. You have to find like different like spots that they point out on a map at the beginning of the night. You have to remember the map by heart. When you get to a place where you're supposed to like mark that you've been, it's just like it's a very underwhelming experience because you're supposed to be excited that you found the spot,
right?
But you're by yourself,
right?
So his way of making sure that everyone knew that he found his spots was he would walk around with a shofar.
And he'd blow.
And we'd blow every time you'd hear, bah! And it's like, oh, Evitar got to where he needs to be going. Middle of the night, it'd be hilarious.
That's cool.
And we'd ask him that. He says, it's an ancient war call. Like, it's literally what it is.
Yeah. It's cool. It's very cool.
So Ahavat Hashem.
So
Ahavat
that's
Yisrael.
Ahavat Yisrael. So that is the first teaching. And that itself already had a massive power, and it brought people to understand what we're talking about. We say we love every Jew. It means not just the Jews that you think, right, are the Jews that you love. It's every Jew. Means when you say love every Jew, because to emphasize, it says v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your fellow as yourself. One interpretation that the Gemara, the Talmud actually says, is love your fellow as yourself means someone who's your fellow in mitzvot. Someone who keeps the Torah, follows the tradition, that person you love. But a bad person, or a person that is not on your level, a simple person who's abandoned, isn't literate, who says you have to love them?
So who says that?
The Talmud.
The Talmud says that. But there's so many examples, even within the Talmud, of that not being the case.
Good. So this is exactly the point. There's legal. Yeah. There's moral.
Because there's like the famous story of Rish Lakish.
Yeah.
Who was a bandit.
Yeah.
And comes Rabbi
Yochanan.
Rabbi Yochanan says, you can make more of yourself. That itself is an expression of love.
Well, in a certain sense, it could have been also just banter. It could also have been that he tells him, I don't love you yet, I will love you later.
He says, if you do this, I'll give you my sister.
Correct.
Where am I pulling these stories out of?
You're right.
I haven't thought of these things
amazing.
in years.
He's Rabbi Yochanan's bathing in the water. Rish Lakish jumps over the river to steal his clothes. He sees him jumping over, and he calls out to him. He heckles him from the water. He says, your strength belongs for the Torah. What are you wasting it on jumping over rivers?
And then Rish Lakish says...
Rish Lakish turns around and tells him...
You're a pretty man.
You're a pretty man. Your beauty belongs for the women. Rish Lakish says, Rabbi Yochanan says, you think I'm pretty? You should see my sister.
That's such
You know what? I'll make you a deal.
so funny.
You become a Torah scholar, you'll marry her. What he's also
Deal.
saying is like your power is going to be so incredible in Torah that of course he's going to want to marry you.
Yeah.
From a very cynical perspective. In other words, you could say that he's like the kind of guy who walks down the street. You know, you always have these stories. Some, you know, all the millionaires and billionaires are walking around town and they meet some young kid who's like, you know, 22 years old, and they chat with him and you're like, why are you bussing tables? You're a genius. Come to my office. I'll put you in the thing. You'll do strategy or you'll do coding, right? It's not out of love for the kid. It's out of inspiration of like, you should make something better of yourself.
But that inspiration is an expression of love, in my opinion.
Maybe.
And
I'm not sold on this. Like it has to be love. It's not love. It's
no,
it's,
but like even look what you do for a living.
It's love for the.
But look what you do for a living.
Okay.
You once like to bring it down to like, in my mind, what is the most like pure expression of what Chabad is First Fridays here, or Leila Seder in Cusco, which is if there's a Jew who feels like he is called to have a Shabbat meal, this is where he's going to do it. Isn't that such a big expression of love?
Yeah. So I'm coming from a post Hasidic teaching of love. I have the training that, you know, that's why we do what we do. The Rebbe spent an insane amount of time, or inordinate amount of time, I should say, teaching us what Ahavat Yisrael is. Even this that I'm quoting you now, the 3 layers of love, this is a teaching of the Rebbe, bringing the 3 teachings.
So we're skipping a generation because we did the Baal Shem.
No. So the Baal Shem, I'm going to do all 3, but who's the one who brings the 3 together and shows you the differences and shows you the progression?
Alter Rebbe.
It's the Rebbe. It's the Rebbe. It's the 7th Rebbe.
7th.
He's the one who goes back and says, let me show you the 3 texts. Let me show you how it progressed. Let me show you what didn't just change from a pragmatic perspective, but what is the internal, psychological, spiritual thing that changes. So that way, you, the person reading it, understands how do we look at other people? How is it that we look at other people in the community? What is it that we're trying to do when we open a Chabad house?
Okay.
And he trained a generation of Chassids on these teachings, and when he finished training the generation, he said, "Okay, you guys that I trained." He sent out a bunch of people to open Chabad houses and Chabad spaces before, but the real shluchim, the real people, the real push, came as the people who were trained by the Rebbe grew up, because they have an understanding that is much. I wouldn't say it's deeper. It's just they know. They know.
So Chabad houses were not a thing until the 7th Rebbe?
Chabad, no, didn't exist.
Okay.
Not even. The Rebbe would argue that the previous Rebbe started it. That's because he wanted to blame it on.
Modest.
Yeah. And do you see that the previous Rebbe started sending people, but all the Chabad Rebbe sent Chassidim to certain communities that needed support, a teacher, a rabbi.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
that's
like,
not a Chabad house. It's
like
very
a
different.
Panama City Chabad.
Correct.
Yeah, like that's
the idea that we're going to have one in every single city. It's going to be a network that covers thousands.
Did you, by the way, tapping into current events, did you see this Tucker Carlson thing?
Which one?
He went on a rant
about the oil.
So he went on like a thing and he said, and there's this network of Jewish and it's called Chabad. And then I watched like a stitch of that where a Jewish comedian named, what's his name?
Mikey?
No. Mizrahi guy. Modi.
Yeah.
He was saying it's like that was the best PR Chabad could have ever asked for. Like, you have Tucker Carlson, a clear anti-Semite, and some Jewish guy who like is or isn't involved in Judaism stumbles across this and he's like, wait, there's an organization that I've never heard of.
There's a network.
There's a network. I need to tap into this.
Yeah.
Best
amazing.
PR.
I mean, other than the fact that like now people are Googling Chabad and trying to like.
Yeah. I'm sure that's not gonna. Yeah, maybe.
Help of God, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that we're ignoring the security. Like.
Yeah.
We've invested in our security because of those comments.
Yikes.
Directly. Yeah. Anyways, point is.
Tough days.
Yeah. Point is. Back to happier thoughts.
Yes.
The Ahavat Yisrael. So the Baal Shem Tov inspires people with this teaching that you have to love the simple Jews too.
Mm.
Good. That's layer one.
Layer one.
Layer number two. The Maggid, who is a student of the Baal Shem Tov, is called the Maggid HaMizrich.
And he's the Alter Rebbe's teacher. Mm-hmm.
So the Maggid HaMizrich calls in one of his great students, Rabbi Melech of Lizhensk, who is, if you look at like the there's a flow chart almost of which great students of the Maggid HaMizrich led to which great Hasidic dynasties. Many of the Hasidic dynasties today come through Rabbi Melech of Lizhensk.
Mm-hmm.
Ger, Kotsk, etc. A whole bunch.
Mm-hmm.
So the Maggid HaMizrich turns to Rabbi Elimelech. At one point, Rabbi Elimelech he had different students would help the Maggid. The Maggid had I think he had 120 students total.
Mm.
Not like the community, but his close students. Yeah. So he had different pairs would help him on certain days. So one day, the Maggid HaMizrich turns to Rabbi Elimelech and he says, Melech, Melech, did you hear what they just said in the heavenly yeshiva, in the Mesivta Derakia, the heavenly yeshiva? They say that you have to have love for a completely wicked person, just like you have love for a completely righteous person.
Okay. Which feeds a little bit more into what I was saying before. Which
is also a deeper level than what the Baal Shem Tov said.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the Baal Shem Tov didn't say...
Yeah, he's not saying what the Gemara says, essentially.
Yeah, but it's in contradiction to what the Gemara had said. Yeah. But what he's saying is the Maggid is going deeper than the Baal Shem Tov in how he's defining Ahavat Yisrael and what he's demanding.
Mm-hmm.
The Baal Shem Tov says simple people.
Mm-hmm.
If they're bad people, he didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
The Maggid is saying also bad people.
Not only the bad people as much as the righteous people.
Yeah, yeah, and they're completely bad. They're like fully
murderers.
Rotten. Yeah. Okay. The Alter Rebbe takes it one step further. He says, you have to love Ahavat Yisrael, love other Jews, in the way that brothers love each other,
mm-hmm.
which is a ahava atzmit, which means it's an essential love.
Mm-hmm.
That you love your fellow as you love yourself. What does it mean, as you love yourself? So the Alter Rebbe is going to do two things. First of all, he's going to add on a layer, but also he's going to add on a logical structure to help us understand it better. And then we'll have to unpack that. So what's the layer he adds on? He says you have to love other people just as you love your own siblings, your own brother,
mm-hmm.
just like yourself. What do we see when you love yourself? What is unique about self-love?
Self-love?
Yeah.
What's the difference between self-love and like the loving of someone else?
Yeah.
Self-love is probably more brutal. Meaning, if you love yourself, if you love someone, it'll encourage you to be kind or compassionate. And loving yourself will make you actually demand more of yourself. Is that it? Am I even close?
You're not wrong,
mm-hmm.
but he's focusing on a different direction,
mm-hmm.
which is you love yourself even though you know your problems.
Mm.
Not that you love yourself and then, or another way, you love yourself even though you have problems. You can akol b'shem tchaseva. You love yourself and you justify all the problems that you've ever done, or everything you've ever done. You have an excuse for yourself.
Okay.
He says that level of excuse making, not that you're trying to twist your mind. I've heard people who say, don't judge. Dan lekaf zchut is a very famous concept in ethical moral teachings.
Yeah.
Dan lekaf zchut means don't judge somebody until you've walked a mile in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because then you'll understand the motives behind.
Because you're a mile away and you have their shoes. If you're a mile away and you have their shoes, then you can judge them. Because you walked a mile in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You follow.
I follow.
But I've heard people do Dalek Zchut in a very twisted way.
Yeah.
And what do I mean twisted way? They're like, someone cuts you off in traffic. So you say to yourself, I'm sure that person is rushing to the hospital.
His wife's giving birth.
And if not, maybe he just realized that he has to get to the bank
that's
before
not
5
Kav
o'clock.
Zchut.
It's a twisted way to be done with Kav Zchut. Because what if it's not? What if objectively not? What's the way the Alter Rebbe is suggesting?
He's saying that person that cuts you off is, rather than saying, oh, he's probably driving his wife to the hospital, it's he didn't control his emotions. I sometimes have a hard time controlling my emotions.
Or even easier. You're right, but go even deeper.
Mm.
You cut somebody off in traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you hate yourself?
No.
What do you say? Say it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So when Shmegegi man cuts you off in traffic, what do you say?
Happens.
It happens. I love him anyways.
Okay.
In the same way that you don't have a problem doing stupid things and still finding, I'm okay. Yeah. I'm okay with myself. It's the same way. It's a core love. It's a love that doesn't get under thing. And there is a conversation to be had, which is an interesting conversation. I've been thinking about this lately. Is this idea of the conversation of doing of how for somebody else you're willing to be more. Sometimes it comes out that you're able to be more forgiving. You're able to let somebody else. You can wish something for somebody else. You can help somebody else because you don't know their personal circumstances, right? Mm-hmm. Someone financially needs help, right? So for yourself, if you financially need help, you feel like, well, it's because I was being lazy, or because I wasn't working hard enough, whatever. When somebody else, you're like, I'm sure they need help, right? So there is an aspect there when it's more removed, it makes it a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to square the two concepts in a different way. I'm still thinking about that because I resonate with both, and I found this in the Hasidic Maimers, the Hasidic discourse. Mm-hmm. So it's two pieces that kind of match each other almost. But this idea of the love that you have for somebody else should be on the same depth level as you have for yourself, which is a core level. You love yourself in a way that nothing needs to be justified, right? People who spend, and it's an interesting conversation, which I don't know if I have the clarity that's, the conversation about self-love. What is self-love actually? It's complicated because if we define love as we spoke earlier, love is about coming close to. You are yourself. You can't come close to yourself.
Yeah.
So the term self-love is you're almost like you're removing yourself from yourself and then you're going to go love yourself. It almost doesn't apply. Mm-hmm. Like love to yourself, it's almost like a mirror image of yourself. But there is a concept of self-love, which is, I don't know if it's self-love or self-esteem or self-acceptance. There's like a lot of words that they dance around the concept, and I don't know which one is the most appropriate.
This is also because of a lot of conversations of ours, and these are two concepts that come up a lot, are chesed and gvura. And I think that both of those are completing factors of expressions of love. And actually, one of them translating loosely into compassion, the other one translating into heroism or aggression.
But it could be a gvura of chesed, by the way.
Yeah,
right.
And I by the way, like if we were to parallel Kabbalistic Judaism to other esoteric practices, I think that those two are the best mirror image of the yin yang, because of how complex they are, where the yin is the black serpent with the white eye, meaning that it's the chaotic feminine, which is supposed to be compassionate but still has that white eye, which is very much of the other side, and the yang, which is the white, which is the order and the masculine, but still has the black eye. It's like they borrow from each other and they complete each other, and and one can't exist without the other. And true expression of love includes both of those things. So being able to care enough about yourself to be kind to yourself and allow yourself to eat a meal even after a day that you didn't work out, just for really loose examples. But on the other hand, to not let yourself eat tomorrow morning until you get on the treadmill for 20 minutes or whatever you want to do. Again, just like really loosely like throwing those terms out there is like those are both expressions of love, but if you lean too much into one of those, it's no longer self-love. It's actually self-destruction. If you're going to work yourself to the core and have an eating disorder in the name of having a six-pack, that's a little too demanding. If you're going to stay on the couch all day eating potato chips, that's a little too compassionate.
Enough. Right.
And same goes for external love, where you're giving that to someone else, where like if my girlfriend is talking to me about, she just can't catch a break, there's a certain amount of hugs that can take place before it's, hey, you need to do something different. If you're not catching a break time after time, I love you, but tough love is
change your thing. It's interesting because I think we have to talk about this more, which is what is, because I think the language is what is the thing that's strange, because we do use the word term self-love, and self-love is a kind of easy way to conceptualize it, but at the same time it can become toxic quickly, because we look at it as this like, people
compassion, just the compassion side of that.
Yeah, well, it's compassion, but even like, again, this idea of like, is it compassion or is it acceptance? Is it, again, as soon as the challenge that I'm feeling essentially is, and again, I'm not 100% sure if I'm right in this conceptualization, but it seems strange to me that that it's encouraged to have this like third party perspective on yourself.
I don't understand what that means.
In other words, if you're having self-love and you're talking about it, people have this thing where they go back and they love the child within them, and they like, when they have these spiritual experiences, or like, let's go love the inner child, or love love the child I was. And I think it's mostly probably a mental format, which then they can begin to accept themselves.
I think it's very much feeding into the
strange.
So what I think you're referring to, and I might be getting this wrong, but what it sounds like you're referring to, and I couldn't agree more.
I'm not trying to judge them, but it just seems weird.
I'll place judgment. That's
okay,
my
good.
job. But and I couldn't agree more. Is there's a side of therapy / psychotherapy or psychology that's very much, and politics aside, this has nothing to do with politics, but affirming care to the point of idealization of the current state. Meaning, I'm depressed. Well, maybe I should accept that I'm depressed. Maybe I'm depressed because of a bunch of things in the past that I no longer have the ability to change. Like, and so on and so on. Another great example of that is not getting off the couch in the name of giving into the flow of life.
Or the name of acceptance.
I'm not being called to get up off the couch. This is a current state, and I'm going to idealize it, as opposed to understanding that the first 6 times you're going to get up off the couch, it's not going to be pleasant.
Right.
Or for the first 2 weeks of that diet, you're going to be hungry a lot of the time. Or on the opposite side of the scale, the first 5 meditations, sitting still for 10 minutes at a clip, will feel like people sticking nails under your fingernails. It will.
Right.
And not doing those because I'm just a hyperactive guy, or not doing that because that's just not my body type, or not doing that because I just don't like to read. That's exactly. Tell me if I'm like hitting it on the head, but I feel like that's something that bothers me a lot too. Is like where people interpret self-love as an idealization and affirmation of the current state that they're in.
I think what you're speaking is the result of the strange emotional relationship that is being created here. And it could just be. It could also just be that it's language that is being used to be able to allow someone to create for themselves a stronger self-esteem or a stronger self-acceptance, which is very important and critical. So it could be the language is just a funky type of language, and they don't mean this like third-party perspective viewing yourself. And people talk. I mean, I've spoken with people that have been done these like psychedelic experiences, and they speak a lot about the third, looking from the outside, seeing myself laying on the ground. Now, in that kind of experience, I couldn't tell you what's going on exactly. And I do think we think of ourselves sometimes as like in the third party perspective, right? Sometimes we do think of ourselves, especially if you have, it's a whole separate conversation about, the challenge of AI. Because if you see videos of yourself doing something often enough or enough times, you watch it a few times, it begins to be burned into your brain as memory. They began to test this, and it is extremely strange because they can almost
literally
they can
memory implants.
Yeah, memory implants, and the strange part of that is if they can implant memories into people that becomes their core, part of their core, like identity,
Their being,
yeah, right, or their narrative
that never happened to them.
That never happened to them, and then now is it manipulation? Is it a good, useful tool? Like someone thinks they had a terrible family growing up, and then you go and you have a ton of amazing photos and family videos, right? Celebrating their birthdays.
Dark. It feels like a Black Mirror episode.
Celebrating, yeah. I mean, this. I'm giving you the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, it could turn south.
It could turn south very quickly, but
quickly.
But even then, how do you feel morally about that? Do
Yeah.
you take somebody who like hates their family because, maybe so to speak, rightfully so, which is a whole separate conversation about like, really family relationships and whatever, but you take that person and then basically you say, oh, we found a hard drive in your father's house or your mother's house, and I know that you never knew about this, but we're surprised too, right? And you show them these videos, you show it to them once, and you do therapy on it, and you're like, wow, like how do you integrate these things? And you show it to them again, you show it to them again. It's just it regenerates, and after a few times, like this person will have these core memories of celebrating the 5th birthday and celebrating. We did a skiing trip when you were 6. Oh, really? Yeah, I remember that. It was so much fun. And you're gonna have these memories, and it completely saves their relationship with their parents. It rebuilds.
That's on the positive side of things,
right.
And also questionably.
What?
Also questionably on the positive side of things.
Well, the result seems to be positive, right? The result seems to be incredible.
Yeah.
They now have, maybe this gives them a sense of identity, a sense of the bedrock that they need, a strong bedrock to be able to build their adult sense of being. There are very few
places. I always like to look at our beautiful books as a reference to like, there are very few places where people did bad things to get good results, and those two came with extreme prices.
Well, my question is it a bad thing?
It's a lie.
Yeah, you're right. You got me. Yeah.
That's what I think.
That's it. No, you're right. Like, that's it.
And it's the two people. So I also thought about this. Thought about this. Is the two biggest lies that we can think of, or someone hiding their identity or lying about their identity, are Yaakov and Esther. Those are like the two big ones that come to mind. Esther is a woman who encouraged Yaakov, his mother.
Oh, interesting.
She says, you're going to go and you're going to dress up and you're going to cover yourself in wool and you're going to go.
But the results of both of those were incredible.
Incredible with prices.
With prices. With Ezra, there wasn't a price.
There wasn't a price?
Wasn't a price. I don't think so.
Well, first,
she suffered the whole way through.
Yeah.
Because she was 13 years in the castle, for sure.
Yeah.
But she saved the Jewish people as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was a personal price for a more than a national.
And Yaakov also had a miserable life.
Yaakov paid the price because his brother hated him and the whole 9 yards from that.
Yeah.
But if you're speaking of from a macro picture, the fact that Yaakov got those blessings,
big win,
massive win,
big win,
right?
Yeah, big score. But I always thought about that. I always thought about that like, and it's also like, a lot of the times that the feminine is depicted in the Tanakh, even with the shoftot, right? You have Dvorah and Neviah. It's deception in a tactical way, in a very powerful way.
Not like a
serpent, but like
Dvorah herself actually was not at all deceptive in any way.
Yeah, she was very much like a judge.
No, she was not only that. She tells her husband, general, she says, "I want you to go to war," and he basically says, "I'm a chicken," in a nice way, and she says, "Fine, I'll lead with you, but you have to come because I'm not going to lead the country. I'm not going to lead as the titular."
And not only that, she says, "You're going to lose the glory if I come." Though he says, "I want you to come with me."
He says, "I don't care." Yeah. He says, "I don't care." And who kills Sisera in that scenario?
Him.
Yael.
Yeah,
a woman. How did she kill him? He comes to her tent and he says, we're colleagues. Your husband and me were allies, and she was not on the same side. And she says, "Come in." And she puts him to sleep, and then she nails him in the head with not a nail gun, but a tent peg.
Very
interesting. That's interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Who else is there? Sarah, nothing.
No, Sarah was
straightforward,
sound. Also, like the
Rachel and Leah.
Yeah, there was like some sisterly.
No, they do it to Yaakov. They trick Yaakov, and when Leah's it's not their fault. It's actually Lavan who does it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not.
But he's a bad dude.
Lavan's a bad dude. He tricks him, and then Yaakov asks Leah. He says, "Why'd you trick me?" She says, "Well, you tricked your brother."
She says that?
You tricked your father. Yeah, you tricked your father for a good result, and I wasn't even given a choice. And of course I'm going to go with it.
Brilliant.
He's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" Basically, like, you tricked me, and then you didn't tell me. He's like, "Yeah, but who's talking?"
Yeah.
He's like,
"Yeah, hypocrite."
Fine. Fine.
Yeah. Wow.
It's interesting. Yeah, I don't. There's a conversation of or Yashar and or Chazer, straight light and returning light.
Mm-hmm.
The male theme, the masculine theme, I should say, is directness, which is funny because in today's world things are very, very different.
Very backwards.
The modern world, yeah.
Yeah.
Men are afraid of being too direct.
And women pride themselves as like, I say what I think.
And women are incredibly direct.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. It's really, really fascinating. And it's not only like men and women pride themselves. It's also personality wise.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys I meet would be afraid to say exactly what they think the way they think it. Just personality wise, like I can figure out a better way to say that won't be so direct.
Mm-hmm.
While a lot of the women that I know are very happy to be extremely direct and tell you gently and nicely, but tell you directly what they think.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
it's very much celebrated.
It's the It's just the reverse of what the Kabbalistic themes would be.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating.
But that's exactly why I think that this is a great mirror image of the Chesed and Gvura, a great mirror image of the yin and yang.
Right. Interesting. Oh, so how do we...
The person who made me think of that is actually Jordan Peterson.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Because in the beginning of his book, he talks about the 12 Rules of Life. He talks about the yin and yang. And then, like, I happened to be listening to that book while you and I were talking about Chesed and Gvura. I'm like, wait a second. Wait a second.
It's very interesting. What's interesting, what I would add nuance to that is that in Kabbalah we have Chesed and Gvura, and in Chesed you have Chesed of Chesed, Gvura of Chesed, and another 5 on top of that. Mm-hmm. And for Gvura you have also Chesed of Gvura, Gvura, and 5 on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little more
nuanced,
a little more complex, a little more nuanced. I'm not saying that they don't have their own version of that, but I just have,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting.
So we were talking about the Ahavat Yisrael. We went through 3 layers.
First layer was love even the simple people.
Mm-hmm.
Second layer was love even the wicked people. Mm-hmm. And the third layer is love people as much as yourself. Love people as much as you love yourself. Love them to the point that you love yourself. Mm-hmm. Which is love them to the point that the same way that your love to yourself extends beyond any
faults that you have.
Not only that you're loving a wicked person, but the same way that you don't care about what it becomes irrelevant, so too love the other person in that way. Mm-hmm. Now, I would argue. I think this is what that I was bringing this and teaching is that really, it's not just that there's 3 layers? Because I could ask you the question: what is the Alter Rebbe adding on to the second layer? The second layer was love people who are evil.
Mm.
The third layer is don't care if they're evil, or don't care if they've done bad. What's changing in the third layer?
I don't know.
What I would think, and the way that I'm understanding it is there are 2 ways to understand why you have to love other Jews. One is that you love God, and God loves the Jews like a father to like a parent to a child, a father to a child. So it's a very, very deep love. You love God so much that you're obviously going to love those Jews the same way that God loves those people, which is a deep, deep, deep internal love, right?
Yeah.
Which is still what we would say an essential love, an ahavat smit, and a soul-based, it's powerfully eternal love. That's like a lower layer. A higher framing of this would be that you're actually all one essence. You're all one.
So you can't.
And it happens to be that you're in multiple bodies.
Okay.
Happens to be. Which, by the way, this is the piece that gets into the conversation of why Ahavat Yisrael, loving a fellow, why Ahavat Yisrael is so critical to all of Judaism. Why it's such a powerful fundamental. Rabbi Akiva says this is the core of the Torah, right?
Al regel achat, right?
Hillel says al regel achat, don't tell others what you don't want done to you. Same idea. Ahavat Yisrael. Why is it so important? Because the only way that you can really do Ahavat Yisrael to this level, this highest level that the Alter Rebbe teaches us, is to love the person as much as you love yourself, is if you understand that actually everyone's just a bunch of souls, and our bodies are fake. Not fake, but they're the things that kind of cause blockage, but really it's all one. And as soon as you make the soul important and the body secondary, it's impossible to hate anybody else.
Yeah.
Because they are you and you're them.
There was a show that came out recently on Apple TV a few months ago. And I zipped through the first season. I don't know when the second season's coming out. Pluribus. And it talks about it doesn't do this directly because it's basically like some virus gets to Earth and turns everyone into the collective consciousness. And except for like a few, like 10 people on planet Earth. And the protagonist in the story is one of the people who's not zapped by the virus. And everyone refers to her, like when they're talking to her, they don't say I, they say we.
Right.
They say us. And it's like the idea came from Jung's like collective consciousness. And it sounds like the Rebbe predated that by about 150 years.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that is that so collective consciousness, it's not that it is that we have a collective consciousness, but it's not to the point that we all now have to feel each other's
feelings,
right? I don't have to feel your feelings. We have to recognize that we are one, therefore it feeds into all types of the ramification of that is, the simple level, I will love you as much as I love myself, which the Alter Rebbe conceptualizes that as I will love you as much as the same way I ignore my own faults, I'll ignore your faults. It means also that I'm going to try to help you in a situation.
I think I think on a deeper level, it means that your faults are my faults.
You have to be careful with that, though.
Why?
It's good. It's healthy to an extent if you're able to handle it.
Yeah,
your faults are my faults, therefore I want to help you work on your faults, but I can't do your fault. I can't fix your faults for you.
No. That's not what I mean. What I mean is you can look at someone and say like that could have just as a few bad decisions, the wrong kind of momentum, that could have been me.
Yeah.
I remember watching there was a documentary that came out about Woodstock 99. So original Woodstock 1969, great, no profits, but extremely incredible thing. 1994 Woodstock 25-year anniversary goes well again, not great profits, not as monumental an experience. Woodstock 99, 30 years from Woodstock, they say to themselves, we want to make money this time. And the only thing is that now they're not catering to a crowd of hippies, peaceful hippies. They're catering to frat boys. We're talking like the era of MTV, punk rock, and riots broke out, and there were all sorts of issues that happened there. I remember watching that and thinking to myself, it's like a lot of people really messed up there, especially like the crowd goers who did like horrible things, whether it was like, God forbid, like really horrific things that happened to some of the women that were out there. A lot of riots, like burning of structures that happened there, like proper riots. And when you watch the documentary, or when I watched the documentary, I couldn't help but think to myself, it's like, I see how they got there. Like it's not that these people woke up one morning and we're just like, wow, we're gonna mess up the world. It's like so many things happened along the way that could have easily just, like, I could have been one of those guys doing, like, unfortunately, like, it's within our human nature to get to those places. And I think that the deeper level of being, our bodies are just physical, but you and I are one. A deeper version of that is understanding, like, you, the bank robber, are the only thing that's different between you and me is our bodies and like 5 bad decisions. Right. And 5 bad decision is 1 bad day. And 1 bad day is nothing.
Right.
And I think that's the compassion.
Yeah. And therefore the echo of that then becomes, how do you look at, helping another person? How do you look at reaching across to help another individual? It's interesting when you see people, homeless people around town. It's complicated because on the one hand, you really want to help these people. On the other hand, the real way to help them, especially the ones that you see are struggling with like real stuff. I mean, the way to help them is through getting them real help. Yeah. Giving them lunch isn't gonna. It'll make them. It might make them less hungry.
For right now.
And the reason why I say might is because most of these people have easy access to soup kitchens, etc., etc. The reason they're on the street is because they need real help. Yeah. And then you're like, well, I'm not in a position or in a way that's safe for me to do that. Or not
only that, it's also like,
yeah, it's just complicated.
Yeah, but also like like let's say you and I were to agree on what that help is supposed to look like, which we might be able to, like, in all honesty. But like, even if let's say we were to agree on what that help looks like, we haven't the ability to provide it for them. Right. Like,
not because we don't have the time and the effort and the money, we don't have the skill set even.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
So Ahavat Israel. So that's how the parsha starts.
So that's it's more related to like the theme of the time of the year that we're in. Okay. To giving of a Torah and the whole thing. Okay. Now, what I would say also is that what I would finish this. I would finish it off is that there's what's interesting. What I find interesting about the different layers of Ahavat Yisrael is that the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid expanded the kamut, the quantity of who we love.
Who would be included in that?
Who's included in the who's included in the love? The Baal Shem Tov says even simple people that are unlettered and unlearned and therefore not deserving, and the Maggid says not only that, even people who are wicked.
And the Alter Rebbe goes for echut,
for quality.
The quality.
Yeah, he deepens the quality of that love.
Beautiful.
What kind of love are we talking about?
The same kind that you would love for yourself.
The same kind you love for yourself, which means it's much deeper. It's not just the same, not just more surface level love. But let's actually go have a deep dive and say what's the maximum level of love you can have for yourself. What does that mean? Why do you have that? What does it look like? That.
I think that there's also another level to that, which I'm like only hearing now, is self-love is existential. You die without it. Right. Whereas if I don't love Joe Schmo who's walking down the street, he'll get love somewhere else.
Right. Exactly. And he's saying no.
My life depends on me loving me.
Yeah.
Or I won't make myself breakfast or lunch or dinner for the next week.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's fascinating.
So which Parashat BeHa'alotcha?
BeHa'alotcha.
You want to go through it real quick?
We could do let's do an an overarching view of the whole thing,
Okay.
and then we'll see
See how we're feeling.
if we do a second dive into this soon. Okay, so the parsha, the general gist of it is it starts off with lighting. It's one of those things where the first few lines of the parsha give it the name, and then the theme of the entire parsha has this idea of raising up and lifting up. But if you actually look at the episodes, there's major episodes later on in the Torah portion, which some of them fall under the radar because we're too busy discussing the first thing. The first thing is the mitzvah, the command of God to light the menorah in the tabernacle every single day. It was lit every afternoon, and it was burned all night, and it came up in the morning, which is why people always wonder about Hanukkah. Like, they had to light the menorah. If you think about it, like, what menorah? They didn't have the miracle yet. What are we talking about? There was a candelabra in the temple, and in the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and it was lit every evening, and it burned all night, and in the morning, it was cleaned, and it was relit, and it was, there's a the conversation of exactly how it was done. Like, the Talmud gets into, like, they cleaned these things, and they did this incense. They came back and cleaned the different parts. So it was a process. It was a
daily task.
It was a daily task that every priest could do. Didn't have to be the high priest. Here we're talking about Aaron, who's the first one to do it, and he's the one who starts off this process. So that's how it starts with the Torah portion. Then we go into the inauguration of the Levites. We do a waving of them, like we shake the lulav. They get waved by Aaron in all directions. They also get shaven, head to toe.
Bald,
no beard, not a hair.
Really?
Part of the process. Yeah.
Was that a regular practice?
No,
or?
It was just the first time that all the Levites were being brought in.
Okay.
It is a fascinating concept. I mean, these are people with big beards and big hair and eyebrows and everything cleaned.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And that's not how most people would picture them, probably.
No. Also, think about it. Aaron is lifting them up and shaking them around in all directions. Every single Levi lifted.
He walked.
So he had they lined up, and he did a tenufa for each one, which was 22,000 of them. So I'm certain
took him a couple of days.
I'm certain it took a couple of days, and Aaron was very buff by the time he was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense. Which goes back to your idea.
Yeah, the Kahat boys.
They're very strong.
Shredded.
They were strong people. Correct.
Well, the reason I think that I thought that Moshe was buff was also the stories of him withstanding prophecy, which was a physical experience, and also lifting his staff. There's like a very famous midrash.
Carrying down the tablets?
Yeah. Well, his staff is like, apparently there's a midrash about specific artifacts that God gave to Adam and Chava in Gan Eden, one of them being a sapphire staff.
Right.
Which found its way to Paro's treasury, which Yitro stole after he was exiled from being... It's a long story, but...
Exactly.
It's like there's so many things you have to work through to get to how it got to Moshe. Correct. But with engravings
even go to Moshe bring the tablets down from Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
Right? It was sapphire stone. It was a block of rock that was...
They were also made out of sapphire?
Pure sapphire.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, 6 tefachim, 6 times 24 inches tall.
6 times 24?
No, 6 times 4. It's 24. 24 inches tall. And 2 of them was 24 inches wide. It was like a 24-inch square of stone. A cube, let's say.
Yeah, that's not a small thing.
A 2-foot cube of a block of sapphire,
which is not
a brick, fairly dense brick.
Yeah,
fairly dense rock. Yeah, it requires strength.
Yeah,
it's dense.
At like 82 years old, 81 years old.
81 years old. Yeah, it was after his. No, it was before. It was 80th. He was still only 80.
Still in the 80.
Yeah, later on he became 80.
Hell of a life.
Crazy. Okay, so then they get waved around. Mazel good. Next. Then comes the Pesach, the first Passover offering in the desert. This technically happens much earlier in the story. It actually could have been the episode that opens up the entire book of Bamidbar. It gets pushed to here, and the different episodes, and the counting is brought first. There are reasons why the counting is brought first, which we'll leave. The reason why this is pushed here is because God basically tells them that they should do a Passover sacrifice in the desert, even though the Passover sacrifice is tied to being the land of Israel.
Is tied to being?
The land of Israel and Jerusalem.
Okay.
So he says we're going to make an exception to the rule, and we're going to make a sacrifice here in the desert on the
Which
first
is why
year
you said in
anniversary.
previous episode how many times. You asked me the question.
Correct.
How many times? So
Correct.
they only did it once in
They
the
did
desert.
it once.
In the desert.
And one of the things that the midrash or our sages say, why did Hashem put this piece later on in the Torah? Because he's like, my expectation was that in year 2 you're going to ask me again, or in year 3 you're going to ask me again. The fact that you didn't, and you were like, okay, it's fine, and we just didn't do it the rest of the time. It's like you had 48 years. What were you doing anyway? Not 48 years, 38 years. What were you doing the whole time? Nothing. You could have done the sacrifices. You could have asked to do the Pesach sacrifice. And in particular, because this Pesach sacrifice, there were people who weren't able to do it.
Yeah, my comedic mind is like taking it to that.
Oh, it's
like
good
the
stuff.
Jealous, The jealous ex-girlfriend is like, why didn't you get me anything? It's like, you said you didn't want any presents. It's like, but
you could have asked.
Yeah.
What's interesting here also is that God has a bunch of people doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a group of people that are impure. They're tameh because they had touched the body, either because they were holding Joseph's body or because they were the people they had helped remove the bodies of the sons of Aaron, which a week and a half before had died.
Mm-hmm. Elazar and Itamar.
Nadav and Avihu, correct.
Right.
So if they're impure, they can't offer the sacrifice. They ask God, what do we do? And then God gives them a solution, which we're going to talk about in a second. But God giving them a solution, meaning God is saying, really the Pesach sacrifice, if you negotiate with me, I'll give you something. But no one does.
Yeah.
So God's like, I'm not upset with you. I'm not cranky about
It's
it.
fine.
I
It's
understand.
fine.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Put it in the second. Put 3 chapters in. 4 chapters. What is it? 9 chapters in. Put it 9 chapters in.
I love it.
Hide it. Which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Good. But what happens? So this is a very interesting. It's a very fundamental teaching, a Kabbalistic teaching today, which is very, very, very common. Comes from this piece where where these people ask God for the permission to do the sacrifice, even while impure. They're trying to figure out what they can do. And Moshe, this is where Moshe tells them, hold up, let me go ask God. I'll be right back. And that's where you see how fundamentally he had a different relationship with God. He's able to call upon God and say, what's the answer? What's going on? And God says, I'll tell you what to do. We're going to make a thing called a Pesach Sheni. Forever. Not just for these people, but it's forever. They're going to have this new concept.
So this is Chag Sheni. This is day 7.
No, this is a month later.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're going to have. We're going to be celebrating our own, post everything version here in on the first Fridays.
Mm.
Which is 1 month after Pesach, people who were not able to make the first Pesach, for whatever reason, are able to come into the temple and do a second Pesach.
And that stands till today.
It stands as long as the temple stands.
So no.
And there was a conversation this year for the first time not this year, I'm sorry. There was a conversation in time of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time that I know of in the history, it could be they had other times they had sources for this, where people were asking if I was sick. And there were a lot of people, especially in the first, 2020, the first
That were
batch
excluded
of
from
sickness.
Seder, yeah.
They weren't excluded. They were sick. They were in bed. They were in hospitals. Right. The first round of COVID was incredibly intense for a lot of people. Brooklyn was full of people who were intubated. It was insane.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Afterwards, things shifted. But that season, that month was crazy. I know of a lot of relatives.
It was also right at the beginning, March 2020. It was like.
But it wasn't just that people were afraid.
Mm-hmm.
It was that there were people who were unconscious.
Yeah.
And their question was, will I be fulfilling a mitzvah? Do I have the responsibility to do a Pesach Sheni, a second Pesach? By eating matzah and maror, can I make blessings? Should I make
This
blessings?
is a concept that would be so foreign to someone who's not Jewish.
Yeah.
Like, I always joke about the fact that it's like Israel is the only country in the world that when war breaks out, people are trying to get in instead of out. And they're also like
you miss Thanksgiving, just be happy, move on in life.
Yeah.
Right.
Where also, like, I had a friend who got injured while fighting during the war just now. And his first words when he woke up, and he didn't know if his arm was chopped off or not, because his arm, and part of it was, unfortunately. His first thing that he said is, "Abba put my tefillin on my right arm." It's like, what?
That's crazy.
What? He's a very religious guy. Don't get me wrong. But, like, it was just like we were in the room. We were all there visiting him, and his dad comes out, and he's like, you won't believe what just happened.
That's crazy.
Only in Judaism. So it's like people have COVID. They're unconscious. They wake up on Shvi Shel Pesach and they're like, "Is it okay if we do it in a month?"
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. That's
a wild concept. People, that doesn't exist in other religions. There's no way.
No, it's very powerful. But yeah, I mean that's what Pesach Sheni is. So the theme of Pesach Sheni is this idea of, I mean, it's a very, very common Hasidic theme, and the previous ever really went into this very heavily. This idea of there's no such thing as there's no verfallen. There's nothing's lost. You can always come back and always make it, rectify the situation.
Very cool.
Very cool. So that's Pesach Sheni. Then we get into so first of all, there's the traveling. This is a long parsha. It's a beautiful parsha.
Okay.
Traveling. How do they travel?
In those 3-3-3.
So the 3-3. So there's different groups would move at different times. Group A, Group B. First, the East Camp would start moving. The cloud would move. The East Camp would move. Then the Mishkan would start to travel. There's a conversation in the Midrash if it meant that they traveled in a row, or it meant they traveled in
the formation.
In the formation, just which one moved first, second, and third, so it wasn't like all cramming into each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, we have trumpets and shofarot.
Mm-hmm.
Your war shofarot and war soundings. It's from this Torah portion.
Hell yeah.
So and the idea. So what's interesting is it's two things. First of all, it's a radical concept that Moshe had 2 silver trumpets. Moses had 2 silver trumpets that he used. That were used to gather the people, to gather the heads of each tribe, or to announce things. This is 2 silver trumpets. Only Moshe used them. After he passed away, they were put away. They were never used again.
Mm-hmm.
But they were his.
He was the one who blew on them.
No, his people blew it, which is so beautiful.
Yeah,
it re-emphasizes again. This is a lot of. I think I'm feeling more and more that the theme of the book is very visceral images. The visceral image of Moshe being a king and being someone who led the Jewish people, not as like a stuttering scholar, but rather as a fierce warrior, a person that held intense responsibility and had to navigate extremely sticky situations. We're gonna see more of them here, but this intensity is beautiful. And so he had trumpets because he was a king, and kings have trumpets that blow fanfares and call people together. That's what he did. God told him to.
Yeah.
He didn't make it up himself. It's fascinating. And then we also have, because of that, in that section that talks about that, we talk about, and by the way, on your holidays, you should also blow trumpets. And you should blow shofarot. And in the phraseology that we use of that verse, it teaches us the ideal formula for prayer when you're using shofarot, and that gives us the current structure that we use for praying on Rosh Hashanah.
Really?
That we have the 3 sections. Shofarot, you want to mention God's kingship, and you also want to mention the memory that God loves us and the relationship God has with us. You want to have all 3. You want to have them in a 3-part structure. You want to blow between each one, shofarot in between each one. All of that is embedded in this verse, which is fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's cool? So again, what I enjoy immensely is being able to see how current practices in Judaism are they're
based in the text.
They're based in they're not just based. They're deeply established. They're deeply cemented. Like I said, we mentioned on the one about Bamidbar with the 5 Slayim. This idea that the 5 shekels for the pidyon for the redemption of the firstborn. This idea that it's not just like, there's an idea, there's a firstborn. There's a redemption of the firstborn, and we have the number of how many silver coins we're going to use that we use today. The same silver coin, the same weight. It's extremely interconnected, extremely cemented. The bridging of the time and the space and the distance with extremely concrete bridges and cables, not just thematic, not just fluffy feelings, not just theological emotions and theological kind of like, this is the direction we should go, be better and holier and better, but very concrete. This is the number, this is the size, this is the shape. Here's a prayer. We blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. I want you to also mention 2 other themes that go with it, and this is the formula you're going to use. Powerful.
Very.
Okay. Now we get into the part where the Jews begin to complain a ton. They travel for the first time away from Mount Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
They follow this whole formula of how they're supposed to do it. The cloud moves. Moshe blows trumpets. This. People start moving. It's beautiful. A whole concert, which, had things gone to plan, it probably would have been the first and the last journey the Jews did.
Yeah.
Because they traveled 3 days towards Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Should have taken a week, took them 3 days. Mm-hmm. They get there and they're annoyed because they ran too fast or something. They're like, ugh, we're moving too fast.
Yeah.
So they complain, and Hashem does not like it, and he begins. This is where the interesting back and forth. He begins to punish.
Mm-hmm.
Begin to punish the people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fire that breaks out, and it has an effect, and it burns some of the greatest people, and it burns some of the worst people. Like, it hits the extremes.
So run me through this. So Am Yisrael starts complaining because we walk too fast.
Correct.
God's like,
a fire breaks out.
just an actual fire.
Fire breaks out.
What's the term used in the Mikra? Is it
says
Sreifa or Eish?
It says, yes, Vativar Bam Eish, a fire breaks out,
Mm-hmm.
and it burns, it devours at the edge of the camp.
Okay.
And the interpretation that Rashi says it comes as the greatest and the worst
Okay.
are both affected.
Okay.
Okay, there's a fire. Moshe, the people go to Moshe and they cry and they say, "What's happening?" And Moshe prays to Hashem, and the fire goes down, and that's it. That's the whole episode.
That's the whole episode.
That's the whole episode. That's the first complaint. Second complaint, immediately afterwards, they're like, "We wish we had better food."
So he sends them a slav, right?
Yes, but it's complicated. There's a lot of different pieces that
Slav
happen
is
here.
a pheasant, not
It's
pheasant.
a quail.
Quail.
Quail. What's complicated is that in this episode is where Moshe makes a comment, or multiple comments, where Hashem tells him, like, I'm gonna, they say we don't have enough food, we don't have enough meat,
Mm.
and the Torah goes into a little bit of a side point and says, "Oh, by the way, just so you know what we're talking about, we're gonna have manna from heaven."
Mm-hmm.
And they're eating it every single day, and it's great. And the only flavors they can't taste are 3 negative flavors that are bad for pregnant women, but everything else they can taste. And when you just imagine it, and boom, you taste it. So I don't know what they're complaining about, but
They're complaining.
and so it's literally the Torah's like, FYI, this is what they're eating, just for the record. But they're complaining, and Moshe points out. He says, they have animals.
Yeah.
Just slaughter them. Like, you can just eat meat, but they're cranky. They're upset.
Yeah, and it's also like it's also interesting, like, that I feel like if I remember correctly, this is the part of the Torah where the way Moshe goes to Hashem and asks him what to do is also like Moshe's a little fed up.
Yes.
He's like I don't know what to do. They won't, like, they have animals, they have food. I don't know what they want. Can you give them something? And it's kind of like a back and forth between those two parents where, where like the mom's been at home all day complaining to the husband gets angry and goes to like raise a hand on the kid, and then the mom's like, no, that's like, I'll take care of it.
Exactly that. Moshe comes to God. It's the first time we see Moshe complain to God about the Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because every other time he defended them.
Mm-hmm.
And here he comes and says, what do I do with them? They're insane.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And what's interesting is that now Hashem says, okay, so let's smack him up. Moshe's like, no.
Yeah.
Not that. What's interesting is that Moshe makes a comment that is very interesting,
Mm-hmm.
where he says basically, will I be able to, first of all, he says a few things. Number one, he says, Why have I not found favor in your eyes that you place the burden of the people upon me? Did I conceive these people? Did I give birth to them that you tell me carry them like a nurse carries their baby?
Whoa.
Where can I find beautiful? Where
Beautiful but dark. Like,
no.
he's not
I'll
happy.
tell you in a second. Where do I have meat to give these people? They're crying to me. I cannot bear the entire people alone. It's too hard for me. Because remember, the fire wiped out a lot of the elders.
Yeah.
So now suddenly he's alone. What's interesting also, though, I think, is that God never corrects him. God never says, no, don't worry. Like, no, you're not supposed to carry them like a mother carries her baby. God's like, yeah, that's right. That's how the leadership works.
Yeah.
Which to me, what I find fascinating about this is reading this from a Kabbalistic perspective, the Kabbalistic lens, is you're looking at a redefining between Parashat BeHa'alotcha and the next two parshiot that come after, two Torah portions that come afterwards of Shlach and Korach. It becomes a very interesting. If you read this as Jews fighting with God, it reads one way. But if you read this as, I want to understand what is the role of a spiritual leader of the Jewish people. What does a rabbi have to do? What does a rebbe have to do? More importantly, what does it mean to be the leader of the Jewish people? Whether it's a smaller community or the entire community, what does that mean? And if you read through these three Torah portions with that lens, it's a fascinating narrative.
Yeah.
And in this first one, Moshe's like, I'm carrying these people. Did I birth them? Do I have to schlep them? Do I bear the weight of these people? And God says,
Pretty much.
I can destroy them if you need me to. And Moshe's like, no, I didn't mean that.
He's like, then this is on you.
That's it. And he gives them 70 elders. He says, I'll give you 70 elders. We're going to have them.
Is that the birthing of Sanhedrin?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he says, you're going to have 70 elders, and they're all going to get prophecy from you. They're going to borrow from your prophecy. It seems to be pretty clear that what God doesn't give them direct communication, but he prophesizes through Moshe. Moshe basically overflows with divine energy, and they hear the same message. There are two other people, and this is a longer conversation. What exactly took place? But there's two people who were not supposed to be there was two people who were supposed to be the sages, but they decided not to go up.
Yeshua and Kalev?
No, Eldad and Medad.
Okay.
Eldad and Medad are they end up staying in the camp because they realize, because Moshe says 70 elders. How do we have 70 elders? We have 12 tribes, and if we do, 12 tribes besides the Levi, so it's 12 tribes. If each of them give 6, 72 elders. Each of them give 5. It's not enough. So what do we do? So he says we're going to do 60. We're going to do 70 elders. Each one's going to give 6. We'll make a raffle. 2 of the ptakim of the papers are not going to say anything. The rest are going to say elder. And so Eldad and Medad are selected from amongst the people to be part of the 6 for their tribe. They decide that they don't want to embarrass. They're like, we don't really deserve it. There'll be 70 without us. It'll be perfect. And so they stay in the camp. When the prophecy begins to happen and everyone...
And do we see that as an act of greatness, or...?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And when they say Hashem actually sends them prophecy directly. So they get tuned into the channel separately, separate from Moshe. And they begin to prophesy different things. The main thing that they say is that Moshe is going to pass, and they basically pass on the news of the future, of what's going to happen later. Which it's still before a lot of episodes happen in the Torah.
And they prophesize that to the people.
Yeah. And Moshe's son hears them prophesizing in general. He runs to Moshe and say, they're prophesizing, what's going on? And Joshua hears them, Yeshua hears them prophesizing. He tells Moshe, put them in jail, kill them, get rid of them. They're prophesizing blasphemy. Because they're saying that you're going to die and I'm going to lead them into Israel.
Moshe's like,
And Moshe's like, what if everyone was prophesying? It'd be awesome. What does he say exactly? He says the exact line. Are you jealous on my behalf? if only all of God's people were prophets.
This is also in the Pshat.
Yeah, it's the words.
These are the words.
Are you being
as
jealous
written.
on my behalf? If only all of God's people were prophets, and God will place His Spirit upon them.
It's incredible. Like,
Isn't it
so
beautiful?
overlooked. The fact that, like, there are other prophets in
Yeah,
Moshe's lifetime.
No, but he's like 72. That's it.
Yeah.
We should have more.
Yeah, and the fact he's like...
It creates you understand what a true spiritual leader wants from his people. Everyone should be on my level.
Yeah.
And if not at my level, at least something. Catch up, get
Yeah.
closer, let's go. It's incredible.
Would make life a lot easier.
Not even that. It's the Spirit of God resting upon you.
Yeah.
And that's also, by the way, an interesting piece of what is the purpose of prophecy? It's not necessarily to give messages over, to receive messages for the people. It's that you should be imbued with the Spirit of God.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole purpose of prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
And Moshe's like, that's the goal.
I wish that upon everyone.
Everyone should have that. Everyone should be a prophet.
True Shefa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then what happens is immediately afterwards, there's the whole story with the quails. Thousands and thousands and thousands of quails, hundreds of thousands of quails, blow through the camp, and the people catch them, and then they eat them for 30 days, and then depending on how bad you were, you either died immediately or you died after 30
Everyone
days.
who ate quail dies.
Everyone who.
So what's the story with the quail? They come.
Well, now they're getting what they asked for. They asked
People
for meat.
kvetch that they want meat.
This is
They get the
end
meat.
it's the end of the narrative. They wanted meat. Moshe has this funky conversation with God in a minute, which I'm about to talk about, and then. The 70 elders are installed.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they're installed, everyone goes back to their tent. The quail begins to blow through in the evening, and the people gather this quail and they eat them, and they die.
And they die.
Well, not everyone dies.
As a punishment.
The ones who
As a
deserved
punishment for
it,
kvetching.
the ones who deserved it die.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a piece in the middle of this, which is very strange. Two pieces. Moshe says, is it 600,000 people that I'm among, and you're saying I'll give them meat to eat for a whole month? Could enough sheep and cattle possibly be slaughtered for them? If all the fish of the sea were gathered for them, would it be enough for them?
These are also just the words.
Yeah. And God says to Moshe, is God's hands too short? You'll see if I can fulfill my word or not. And the commentary, meaning the original, the Gemara, tears itself apart over what the definition of these words are. Because the first and most simple way to read this is that Moshe questions God's power, especially from the response that God tells him.
What I hear when you were reading the words is Moshe also kind of being fed up, and he's being like, it doesn't matter what you give them,
right?
They will not be satisfied.
Correct. And so that's kind of the Gemara immediately shifts into that. It says, obviously Moshe wasn't kvetching.
Yeah.
The simple interpretation is Moshe was kvetching, so why wasn't he punished? He wasn't punished because it wasn't in public, it was in private.
Yeah.
The only person that heard was God. No one.
But he's not going to question.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because the obvious question is the person who channeled God to split the sea, bring the 10 plagues, and everything else, and bring the manna down, is suddenly confused. Oh my gosh, where are we getting the meat from?
Yeah.
But what's the question?
Yeah.
There's a lot of commentary. So your point is the first step into the commentary, where they say he was asking God, is it ever going to satisfy them?
Yeah.
Makes no sense. And God says, I'll do it anyways. We'll show them that. Another deeper layer is that Moshe saying, does it make sense you're going to feed them food and then kill them? It's like a last meal. It just seems strange. The Or HaChaim, I believe, if I remember correctly, he's the one who says it's chesed and gvura. Chesed followed by gvura. It doesn't fit. You're giving them kindness. Or with another interpretation, I think the Ramban mentions this, where he says, Moshe's like, he couldn't conceptualize the idea that God's going to make an incredibly massive miracle for people who are going against him so badly. I mean, he says, if you're telling me you're going to make a miracle for them to give them meat because it's this wild thing, he says, well, I know you can do any miracle. But it seems to me that you would never do a miracle for these people. And if that's the case, it's going through natural resources. Well, natural resources are not enough natural resources for these people. And they're crazy. But there's natural resources. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So Hashem's answer to him is, first of all, I can bend nature. The rules are mine to break. Number two, Hashem is also answering to him from the moral perspective. He says, I can't leave them unfed before I kill them. The ones who are deserving of punishment need to understand that no, you made a mistake. I will show you that I can feed you.
Yeah.
And then the punishment comes as it deserves.
Beautiful.
It's not clear how many people die. I think I have a note somewhere where I don't know how many people exactly die at this point, but it wasn't pretty. Okay.
Mhm.
The capstone to the parsha is that they leave from this area and they call this place the graves of craving, kivrot hata'ava.
Mhm.
Just tragic. And the capstone to this whole thing is where Miriam hears Tzipporah commenting about Eldad and Medad, in particular about their wives.
Mhm.
And she says, Tzipporah says, which is Moshe's wife, she says, I feel bad for their wives.
That they're prophesizing
Yeah, they became prophets.
because she has.
Have compassion. So Miriam hears this and says, what do you mean? And she says, well, Moshe has separated from me physically. Because...
Not divorced.
So later on was divorced also.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. To the point where he's like, this, why put you through suffering?
Because he was so.
Because he was so intensely connected. He was at all moments in time. He was either actively having prophecy or about to have prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tzipporah makes this comment.
Mm-hmm.
Miriam hears the comment. She goes to her brother as the older sister and as the older brother to have a conversation about Moshe. And she says, "What's going on?"
So this is the Tzarat.
Yeah.
And this is when she calls Tzipporah the N-word.
Kind of. Yeah.
Isha Kushit.
Yeah, but Kushit then was from the city
Ethiopia.
of Kush.
Yeah.
Ethiopia. So
I just find it funny that
yeah,
it's the
it's
N-word.
hilarious. So she says, she goes to Aaron and she says, what's the deal? How is it possible? And Aaron, I guess, responds back. And what's interesting is that, like, I think their fundamental mistake was two things. Number one is, did you think Moshe does anything without God telling him to? And in fact, once you understand this is coming, if you go back to the text and explore what happens by the giving of a Torah, in fact, God tells Moshe, tell the rest of the people. He told everyone in the entire nation to separate from their wives, to be holy, go to mikvah and be holy for 3 days. And after those 3 days, they get the Torah. And at the end of the giving of the Torah, the last thing that God tells Moshe is to tell them all, they should all go back to their tents. You stay here with me and we'll talk. And the understanding of that was, they're all going back to regular life. But once you've been differentiated out and separated from your family and from everything, Moshe only had 2 kids. Shut out for the family. That's it. From now on, we talk.
Mm-hmm.
So when Miriam, again, we in retrospect know this.
Mm.
Miriam hears about this. She talks about it to Aaron. Hashem hears this, and Hashem's like, no.
I'm not going to talk smack about.
He says, maybe he says you should have confronted him directly. Talk to him directly.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with that? Or don't talk to him about him at all. I'm in charge. I told him what to do. What do you think? He makes his own rules. But of course, not only does the Torah, she gets so to finish the loop, she gets leprosy. Aaron sees her get leprosy. He runs to Moshe and says basically, you have to. She's our sister. You have to pray for her. And Moshe's like, what happened? I had no idea. And he's like, she had leprosy. She spoke bad about you. And so Moshe says, Moshe davens the most shortest prayer in the history of the Torah. It goes, I forgot. I forgot to say. She criticizes Moshe at that moment in time, and in her comment to Aaron, she says, "We're also prophets. We've received prophecy, you and I, many times. Miriam's one of the 7 known female prophetesses that provided real prophecy." And she says, "We haven't separated from our spouses." At that moment, Hashem appears to Aaron, Miriam, and Moshe.
Mm-hmm.
to come to the, and tells them to come to the Mishkan, the tabernacle, to receive a prophecy. Moshe goes. Aaron and Miriam both had to run to mikvah before they came because they were
leopard.
They were after having relations with their spouses. Which,
but
by the way,
is that tuma? Just being with your spouse?
Yeah. In other words, not tuma, not a negative tuma, like a bad, but it means you have to purify yourself before you were indulging in the physicality of the world. Mm-hmm. Now you go to mikvah and you come out of it. It's like it's not bad. It means
it's not an impurity.
You have to re-elevate basically afterwards.
Okay.
So they run to mikvah and they come, which, by the way, they were 83 and 86. It's fascinating. So then they run back to the mikvah. They run to the thing, and then God talks to them, lets them have a piece of his mind. Mm-hmm. And when God leaves, basically he also is showing them this is why Moshe is separated, because I had to wait here 20 minutes or an hour until you finish your mikvah processes.
Yeah, he's been
waiting.
Yeah,
he's been waiting. We're both waiting. He's hungry. I want lunch too. Like, what's going on over here? You know what I'm saying? It's like that attitude. And then
his priorities are straight.
Maybe I told him what to do.
Yeah.
Maybe I told him. What's fascinating is that, and so Hashem removes himself. She has leprosy. Aaron turns to Moshe and says, you have to pray for her. Like, what are we going to do? Moshe davens. He says, please God, heal her. No, sorry. Please God, please heal her. Very long prayer. And God says to Moshe, if her father was to spit in her face, wouldn't she be humiliated and hide in her chambers for 7 days? She's going to have the leprosy. She stays out of the camp for 7 days. And she comes back.
As would happen to anyone else.
It could be infinite. It could be indefinite. Hashem says, leprosy could last for months, for years. Who knows?
I thought the initial thing is tzarat for Lashon Hara is 7 days outside the camp.
7 days you check to see if the guy still has it. Mm-hmm. And if he still has it, you keep going. And you check it every 7 days, every 14 days you keep checking. The person could have it for years if they weren't rectified and get fixed. Mm-hmm. Hashem says 7 days. If her father was going to spit at her, she would be embarrassed and she would hide for 7 days. At least here, where I'm upset with her, at least 7 days. Mm-hmm. And so she leaves the camp for 7 days, and the Jews don't travel.
For 7 days.
Out of respect, even though technically they could have traveled closer to Israel, but for 7 days, everything freezes. And this is a point in time where they're fermenting. They're about ready to go into the land of Israel. They're really getting ready. The next Torah portion deals with the spies and like going into the land of Israel and checking the land of Israel, and everything freezes for 7 days. Miriam waited for Moshe at the edge of the Nile. The least we could do is we're not moving. The way that I like to conceptualize it is that the cloud went up and everyone said no.
It would be pretty.
The cloud, God's like, let's move, and they're like, no, wait 7 days and then we'll go. And God's like, fair.
Yeah.
Doesn't say it anywhere. It's many levels of interpretation. That's why I do it. Now,
but I like it. Because, she's...
You want to see it, you want to see the actual, What's interesting, though, I want to share with you, because I mentioned earlier this idea that if you read these Torah portions at the lens of the spiritual energy of Moshe and the spiritual leaders of the Jewish people throughout history, so we already had a double piece. One is where mom and dad are kvetching about the kids. Yeah. Which just goes to show you what kind of relationship the Rebbe has with God, and that kind of a way Moshe has with God. Mm-hmm. And number two is you have the Moshe saying two comments. One, did I birth them? Do I have to carry them? And God's like, mm-hmm. And the second thing was, there's 600,000 of them. We're intertwined with each other. They're like the feet, and I'm like the Zohar reads that and says, oh, that's the exact structure of how the tzaddik and the people are interconnected. This is the head of the body, this is the feet of the body, the arm of the body. Mm-hmm. So the Zohar just reads that as like a map of the interrelationship of a righteous person with the people. And when God comes to talk to Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam in the temple to tell them that they messed up, what does he say? Please listen to my words. Whenever someone experiences prophecy, I make myself known to them only in a vision or a dream. This is not the case with my servant Moshe. Among my entire household, he is the most trusted. I made known to him I speak to him. I give knowledge, mouth to mouth, in a vision, not riddles. When I speak, he sees the image of God. Why were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moshe?
Like as backing of
Love it. Love it. But it's also the imagery. We are understanding that this Moshe's prophecy is on a higher level completely. Moshe has a different type of... The words that we use here allow us to understand what most prophets experience, what Moshe doesn't experience on a higher level. It becomes a basis for like the understanding of the spiritual inner workings of how prophecy works in general, how prophecy for Moshe works. It's a very, like I said, these three portions, I would say, maybe even four, Chukat included. It gives us, it's a if you look at it from the lens, what is the fabric of a spiritual prophet, a leader? What is the fabric? This is the third piece in the Torah, and we're going to have it again in Shlach and in Korach, and it's fascinating, very fascinating.
Brilliant. The only thing that I want to ask about of that sentence, because it's like brilliant, it's like a scene of Peaky Blinders, where like it's just like gangster.
Yeah.
But where he says Yoshev Beiti, he's of my household.
B'chol beiti ne'eman is the exact translation.
So he is the most loyal of my household. He's considering him. He's like this is he's sitting at the. I want to know who else is at that table.
I would argue it's the
angels. That's like what came into my mind too.
100%.
Yeah.
And no, Kabbalah gets into it's interesting. Chassidus doesn't preoccupy itself with the names of angels.
With the
names of angels.
Mm-hmm.
It's not interested in that. Not because it's not relevant.
So who does if not
Kabbalah? Kabbalah does.
Oh, so who
Chassidus.
Chassidus does. Okay.
Does not. Chassidus says, is it relevant to you? Is it going to make your service of God better and stronger and greater? Your morbid curiosity and the random names of angels? No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't practice magical Kabbalah these days in the same, in the way that maybe they did in previous generations.
Mm-hmm.
But we know a few of the angels' names. We have a few because it's important for
Gabriel, Michael,
Raphael,
yeah,
Uriel, and then there are books. Oh, the bud is that there are books. There's a book called Sefer Raziel HaMalach, which is basically lists of angels' names. So it exists in Kabbalah. It has it because Kabbalah is the teaching and the study, and maybe it's useful just to understand the structure of God's kind of dominion and realm. Or maybe it's useful if you're going to be using it to channel magical Kabbalistic energy, amulets, whatever, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
People use it throughout the generations. Today, I mean, I have a copy of the book, I think, somewhere, but it's a small little book.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's cool.
So that's the Parsha?
That's the Parsha. So the Parsha in long or in short is a finishing up a few more of those important episodes that happen at the base of Mount Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
And then it brings us, how does the journey go? Had they have their first journey, and then we get swept into the complaining of the Jewish people. And this theme of complaining, which is also in a certain sense, it's the friction of the material world the Jews are about to enter into. They had a year and a bit outside of Mount Sinai. Maybe a little more even. I think they had a full year at Mount Sinai. And now they're moving towards Israel, and there's a little bit of anxiety, I think, that comes from this. They're going to move into material land. It's stressful, and
they're going to lose the man. They're going to lose. They're going to lose a lot of privileges about being the generation that was.
It's starting to bubble up. It peaks in the next Torah portion after this.
Korach.
But it starts in Shlach, when they send the spies. And then in Korach it flips on its head. We'll get there when it comes.
Mm-hmm.
But
quite literally.
Yeah. But the stress is beginning to build. So they complain about the manna. They complain about the not having the meat.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there's a lot of different ways to frame all of these different things. But it's in a certain sense, it's like, it's not even Moshe struggling to deal with them so much. It's just Moshe looking at them and saying,
will it ever be enough?
No, I understand your motivations and they're bad.
Yeah.
Like, I understand what your questions are, and they're not. There's no answers the question that you're asking, the way you're asking the question, is not an answerable question. You just want to be cranky. Do you want to stay in the desert for forever? Which is what the Jews ask for.
Yeah.
In the next Torah portion, after a long, convoluted way they got there, they're like, "Oh, we wish we just stay in the desert." And God just says, "Sure, no problem. Sure, stay in the desert."
Yeah.
And then they go,
We didn't mean it.
No, we don't want that. It's like kids.
Yeah.
We don't want that. But God says, no, it's actually
Look,
probably...
quite literally, like.
And then God says, no, it's
infant
actually...
behavior.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. You die in the desert, and the people going into the land of Israel will be your children who grew up free, who grew up eating manna, who grew up under Moshe's tutelage. He's going to educate you guys. He'll teach you Torah for 38 more years.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be good. It'll be very healthy. And the Jews freak out, but it is what it is.
Someone who we all know gets the last word.
Correct.
Be'halotcha.
That was בהעלותך.
Lovely.